Good afternoon, friends. Today we shall continue our lesson. The next point happens to be the family requirements. We are discussing about expatriates and all this. The family is very important influence. It has bearing on the success of oh. Good afternoon, friends. We are continuing our lesson on expatriates. Yesterday we have started and we are discussing various aspects relating to expatriates. Today we shall continue about those things. The next important requirement happens to be the family requirement. The family is a very important influence factor on the success of an international assignment, particularly the spouse. Despite the importance of the accompanying spouse or the partner, the focus has been on the expatriate. From the multinational perspective, expatriate performance in the host location is the most important factor. However, the interaction between expatriate, spouse, partner, and family members, various adjustment experiences is now well documented. It should be pointed out that the spouse or accompanying partner often carries a heavy burden. Upon arrival in the country of assignment, the responsibility for settling the family into its new home falls on the spouse, who have left behind a career along with friends and social support network, particularly relatives. In developing countries, the employment of house servant is quite common, but this is an aspect of international living. Westerners from developed countries have some difficulty adjusting it too. It's often not possible for the spouse or partner to work in the country of assignment due to immigration regulation, and the well-being and education of the children may be on an ongoing concern for the spouse. As discussed previously, apart from the accompanying partner's career, disruption to children's education is an important consideration, and the selected candidate may reject the offer assigned on the grounds that a move at this particular stage in his or her child's life is inappropriate. The care of aging or invalid parents, it is yet another consideration why people they reject their new assignments. Then the next point we need to discuss it's about country cultural requirements. International firms are usually required to demonstrate that HCN is not available before the host government will issue the necessary work permit and entry visa for the desired PCN or TCN. In some cases, the multinational may wish to use an expatriate and has selected a candidate for the international assignment not only to find the transfer blocked by the host country. Many developed countries are changing their legislation to facilitate employment-related immigration, which will make international transfer somewhat easier. An important point related is that generally a work permit is granted to expatriate only. The accompanying spouse or partner may not be permitted to work in the host country. Increasingly, multinationals are finding that the inability of the spouse to work in the host country may cause the selected candidate to reject the offer of an international assignment. Further, the host country may be an important determinant. Some regions and countries are considered hardship postings. Remote areas away from major cities or modern facilities, or war-torn zones with high physical risks. Accompanying family members may be an additional responsibility that the multinational doesn't want to bear. Now, the next point happens to be M&E requirements. Selection decisions Selection decisions are influenced by the specific situation of the MNE. For example, the MNE may consider that the proportion of expatriates to local staff when making selection decisions mainly as an outcome of its staffing philosophy. However, operations in particular countries may require the use of more PCNs and TCNs than would normally be the case as multinationals operating in parts of Eastern Europe and China are discovering. Furthermore, the mode of operation involved needs to be considered. Selecting staff to work in an international joint venture may involve major input from the local partner and could have heavily constrained by the negotiated agreements on selection processes. Then the next aspect has to be considered. It is about the language. Language skills may be regarded as of critical importance for some expatriate positions, but lesser in others. Though some would argue that the knowledge of the host country's language is an important aspect of expatriate performance, regardless of the level of position. The ability to speak the local language is an important aspect, often linked with the cross cultural ability. Nevertheless, mastering the local language is most often not the most important qualification with respect to languages. Another component to language is the selection decision is the role of common corporate language. As previously discussed, many multinationals adopt a common corporate language as a way of standardizing reporting systems and procedures. This is perhaps not an issue for PCN selection within multinationals from the Anglo-Saxon world, Britain, the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, where the chosen corporate language remains the same as that of the home country. However, It becomes an expatriate selection issue for multinationals from non-English speaking countries that adopt English as the corporate language, unless the posting is to a country with a shared language. Then the next aspect relating to selection, ad hoc processes that they describe as the coffee machine system. They suggest that managers chatting, say how the selection takes place. That is what we are discussing. Till now, we discussed what are the requirements. Now, how the selection process is taking place in most of these. Normally, what happens in the selection process, ad hoc process that they describe as the coffee machine system. They suggest that managers chatting around the coffee machine or water cooler can start the selection process through a casual conversation about a vacant expatriate position that needs to be filled. A colleague may volunteer the name of a potential expatriate, thus starting an informal short list of candidates. Then the formal selection procedure starts. The next aspect happens to be sometimes in some organization, structured interviews they dominate. Might be wondering what is it I'm teaching. I'm talking about how a selection takes place to these expatriates in MNCs, and this comes under selections of or procurement of candidates for international companies. Then structured interviews dominate. Then recommendations and self-selections, they were the most important techniques, followed by tests of intercultural skills. We were discussing about all these things. Then psychological and cognitive tests. Then assessment centers and interviews are used while selecting the candidates. Some companies, they also conduct interviews with the spouse of the possible future expatriate. Selection process also involves and focuses on intercultural competence. Some organizations, they will also conduct role play in order to select the candidates. Now, how expatriate interviews will be there? The expatriate interviews, some of the questions that are asked or probably they are asked, they're relating to how many expatriate assignments have you completed previously? Then, what are the main reasons why you choose to accept your previous expatriate assignments? Then, what difficulties did you experience adjusting to previous international assignments and how did you overcome them? They can also ask, on your last assignment, what factors made your adjustment to the new environment easier? A few more questions they're relating to what experiences made interacting with the locals easier? Then they may ask, please describe what success or failure means to you when referring to an expatriate assignment. Then, was the success or failure of your assignment measured by your employees? If so, how did they measure it? During your last international assignment, do you recall what you realized your situation was a success or failure? How did you come to that determination? Then, why do you wish to be assigned to an international position? So, these are some of the questions that are asked. Then, the next thing that we are discussing it's about IHRM solutions for dual career couples. There are three important points. We shall focus on those things. One is interform networking, two, job hunting assistance, third one, intra-firm employment. Then the other things are relating to language training, educational assistance, employer-sponsored work permits, and career planning assistance. We shall discuss some of these things in detail. Now, the first thing that we are focusing is on dual career couples we have and how we can help them. The first one happens to be support measures. It includes language training, educational assistance, employer sponsored work permits, and assistance with career planning. The second one happens to be interform networking. Here, the multinational attempts to place the accompanying spouse or partner in a suitable job with another multinationals, sometimes in a reciprocal arrangement. Then the next help that they can do, it is about job hunting assistance. Here, the MNE provides spouse or the partner assistance with the employment search in the host country. This may be done through employment agency fees, career counseling, or simply work permit assistance. Some may provide a fact-finding trip to the host location before the actual assignment. The other things are related to intra-firm employment. This is perhaps a logical but often a somewhat difficult solution. It means sending the couple to the same foreign facility, perhaps the same department. Not all multinationals, not all couples also are comfortable with the idea of having a husband or wife team in the same work location, and there can often be a significant difficulties obtaining work visas for such arrangements. Then the next thing that we can think we will talk about it's about on assignment career support. Motorola some time back provided an example of how a multinational may assist spouses to maintain, even improve career skills through what Motorola called it dual career policy. This consisted of a lump sum payment on education expenses, professional association fees, seminar attendance, language training to upgrade work-related skills and employment agency fees. There were conditions attached, such as the spouse must have been employed before the assignment, and thus the spouse was able to find suitable employment. The assignment time could be spent on career development activities. Now, the next thing that we are going to talk about is female expatriates. Women expatriate many times. We have female expatriates. Many people they are going on this assignment? How are we going to help these people? The first thing that you can do, you can have a strategy, pre-assignment strategies, then on-assignment strategies, then post-assignment strategies. In the case of pre-assignment strategies, what we can do to female expatriates is creating self-awareness, understanding their own strengths, and recognizing the values and emotions that one identifies with based on upbringing and culture, then using those strengths and skills to the fullest advantage, planning one's life as well as one's career, development of the relationships and social networks, finding and using mentors as well as corresponding with female expatriates for advice and guidance. For MN is what they do. They begin with a thorough review of the selection criteria for overseas assignments, eliminate through policy and training any overt or subtle gender biases in the selection process, train selection decision makers to avoid the subtle gender biases in the selection process, trailing spouse and dual career issues should be discussed and provided for regardless of the manager's gender, make a more concerted effort to insert women into the relevant informal and formal organizational networks. Then on the assignments, what we can do is finding and using mentors as a key to success, develop the willingness and skills to absorb knowledge from the local settings. For MNs, the suggestions are consider assigning female expatriates to countries where they're likely to have a greater opportunity to adjust quickly, develop and grow, particularly earlier in their careers. Consider and develop possibilities for short-term assignments. Continue training and mentoring. These things you can do when it's an on assignment. Then post-assignment strategies are relating to simply acknowledging that the likelihood of an extensive use of knowledge is unlikely. Female expatriates may think and act more entrepreneurially, taking even greater responsibility for managing their careers. For MNAs, these are relating to psychological contracts must be fulfilled when an expatriate returns. Namely, pay particularly attention to the continued mentoring and training, opportunities for the expatriates to use their new expertise. So these are the suggestions that are offered for a female expatriates. Then, what we have to do when all these things are over, you need to prepare expatriate for this assignment. So here you have to think, does the employee have a solid grasp of the job to be done and the goals established for that position? Second one, does the employee understand the compensation and benefits package? Have the employees had access to cultural training and language instructions? Is the employer receiving relocation assistance in connection with the physical move? Is there a contact person to whom the employee can go not only in an emergency, but also to avoid becoming out of sight and out of mind? If necessary, to accomplish the assigned job duties, has the employees undergone training to get up to speed? Has the assignee undergone an assessment of readiness? See, this is how we need to prepare. When expatriate they are going, we need to give them cross-cultural training. We have to prepare the individual and also family mentally for the move. We have to remove some of the unknowns because they are going to a country with which they are not conversant. We have to increase their self-awareness and cross-cultural understanding. We need to provide the opportunity to address questions and anxieties in a supportive environment. We need to provide in a supportive environment. We have to motivate them. We have to excite those people. At the same time, we have to reduce the stress and provide coping strategies. And this eases the settling in process, reduces the chance of relocation failure. Not only preparing the expatriate, even family has to be prepared. A few discussions have to be done. And we have to think these things. Have they been included in discussions about the host location on what they can expect? Foreign context and culture may be difficult for accompanying family because they will not be preparing. They will not be participating in the more secure environment of the work site. That the family has suitable personal characteristics to successfully address the rigor of an international life. In addition to dual career issues, other common concerns include aging parents left behind in the home country and special needs for children's education. So, all these things we have to consider while preparing family. Apart from these things, we have to think about the team, the work team, whether the new expatriate will supervise the existing work team, be a peer, replace a local national, or fill a newly created position. Has the existing work team been briefed about it? Then plans for formal introduction of the new expatriate. It should reflect local cultures and may require more research and planning as well as input from the local work team. Then we have to talk to manager, team leader also. Does the manager have the employee's file on hand regarding increases, performance evaluations, promotions, and problems? Have the manager and employee engage in depth conversation about the job? Mentors, they play an important role in enhancing a high performing employee's productivity and in guiding his or her career. Many times we think all these things are very simple, but let me tell you, simple things are often forgotten. Therefore, all these things have been taught in detail. Then the organization, the company is starting to send more employees abroad. It has to reassess its administrative capabilities. Can existing systems handle complicated tasks such as currency exchange, split payrolls, not to mention the additional financial burden of paying allowances, incentives, and so on? Often, international assignments lead to outsourcing for global expertise. Payrolls, tax, employment law, contractual obligations. See, all these things warrant an investment in sound professional advice. Then we need to consider various employment laws also. Now, having seen how selection take place, now we have to focus on reward and compensation system. So far, we are discussing so elaborately about expatriate assignment, how human resources are procured. Now we are going to discuss about their compensation. Now we shall talk about reward management. Some people they call it compensation management. So a little variation, these names are given, but we shall discuss about these things. Reward management is defined as the strategies, policies, and processes which are required to ensure that the value of people and the contribution they make to achieve organization, department, and team goals is recognized and rewarded. So all the process policies they are discussed under this reward management. The objective of any reward management, number one, we have to support the overall organizational strategies. The second one is the reward management should enable us to recruit and retain people. Two things are important. We have to recruit and retain people. We have to design reward management in such a way that it should help us to motivate employees. Reward management should also see that internal and external equity is being managed. I think we are taught in this one, wage and salary administration, about internal equity and external equity. And it has to strengthen the psychological bond or psychological contract. Not only these things, the reward management in the long run should be financially sustainable. Besides, it should comply with the legislation. And ultimately, reward management has to be administered very, very efficiently. Now, when we talk about rewards, we shall have a small classification. The first one happens to be intrinsic rewards and extrinsic rewards. When we talk about intrinsic rewards, we focus on basic needs, survival needs, security, pay, conditions, and treatment. These are the things that are discussed under extrinsic rewards. When we talk about intrinsic rewards, they should satisfy higher order needs. They should touch esteem needs and also development needs. Then we'll move on to rewards by individuals, rewards by teams, and rewards by organizations. When we talk about rewards by individuals, we focus on base pay, the type of incentives that are given, benefits, rewards attendance, performance, and competence. Whereas when you focus on team rewards, the focus is on team bonus, rewards for group cooperation. Then from the organizational point of view, when we discuss, we talk about ESOPs, we talk employee stock option plans, we talk about profit sharing plans, we also talk about gain sharing plans. Now, when we are designing compensation, how it's going to be? The compensation design could be number one, it is based on host country based approach. With this approach, the expatriates employees compensation is based on local national rates. Only 14% of long-term assignments and 5% of short-term assignment they base on local rates. The second thing that we talk about, the headquarters-based approach. This approach assumes that All assignees, regardless of location, are in one country. That is, USA companies pay all assignees a US-based salary regardless of geography. A small percentage of companies use headquarters-based approach for long-term assignments, around 4%, and short-term assignments, around 5%. Then we have the third approach, it's a balance sheet approach. In this scenario, the compensation is calculated using the home country-based approach with all allowances, deductions, and reimbursement. After the net salary has been determined, it is then converted to the host country's currency. This approach guarantees that employees in international assignments maintain the same standard of living they enjoyed in their home country. A worksheet lists the cost of major expenses in home country and host country, and any differences are used to increase or decrease the compensation to keep it in balance. Some companies, they also allow expatriates to split payment of their salaries between the host country and the home country's currencies. The expatriates receive money in the host country's currency for expenses, but keeps a percentage of it in the home country's currency to safeguard against wide currency fluctuations in their country. Then the next thing we need to talk about housing. Expatriates may find the reality of foreign housing very different from expectation, particularly in host locations considering to be hardship assignments. Expats will find, depending on the degree of difficulty, hardship, or danger, that housing options can range from spacious accommodation in a luxury apartment building to company compounds with dogs and armed guards. Then a few more things we shall discuss briefly, but we shall discuss in detail about these things. Expected performance and other things I'll discuss in detail, but just we'll touch upon, then we move. Measuring expected performance. Failed international assignments can be extremely costly to an organization. There is no universal approach to measure an expected performance, given that specifics related to the job, country, culture, and other variables need to be considered. We shall discuss all these things in detail in our next session. Employers must identify and communicate clear job expectations and performance indicators very clearly on the assignments. This happens to be one of the important topics we shall focus, I think, in the next session also in detail. A consistent and detailed assessment of an expatriate's employee's performance, as well as an appraisal of the operation as a whole, is critical to the success of an international assignment. Issues such as the criteria for and timing of performance reviews, raises, and bonuses should be discussed and agreed on before the employees are selected and placed on international assignments. Then retention. I'll discuss again this one also in detail, but some reference I have to give. Employees on foreign assignments face a number of issues that domestic employees do not. According to a survey, the majority of expatriate employees who leave their organizations in the midst of international assignments do so because of issues related to the assignment and adaptation, whether it was related to job itself, career concerns overall, or as a result of poor candidate selection. Obviously, retention we consider is a very important aspect in IHRM. Then you need to think about safety and security, which is often neglected. When faced with the accident, injury, sudden illness, a disease outbreak, or political unstable conditions in which personal safety is at risk, expatriate employees and their dependents may require evacuation to the home country or to a third location. To be prepared, HR should have an evacuation plan. Normally, we don't think all these things, but they are very important. Evacuation plan in place that the expatriate can share with friends, extended family, colleagues, both at home and abroad. Then ban travel outside the country. When a travel advisory issued by the World Health Organization, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, international SOS or a government agency, when a widespread outbreak of specific disease occurs, or if the risk is deemed too high for employees and their well-being is in jeopardy, if the country is undergoing civil unrest or war, or if an act of terrorism has occurred, the local management makes the decision, and if the employee makes the decision, then ban on travel outside the country. Then, at another important aspect happens to be the repatriation. The repatriation process begins before expatriate leaves his or her home country and continues throughout the international assignments. Now, what should happen in this repatriation? First one, career planning. Many managers are responsible for resolving difficulty problem abroad and expect that a well-done job will result in promotion on return, regardless of whether the employer had made such a promise. Then mentoring. Mentoring, if the expatriate should be assigned a home office mentor. Mentors are responsible for keeping expatriates informed on developments within the company, for keeping the expatriate names in circulation in the office, to help avoid the out of sight, out of mind phenomenon, and for seeing to it that expatriates are included in important meetings. Communication. An effective global communication plan will help expatriates feel connected to the home office and will alert them to changes that occur while they are away. The internet, email, and internet are inexpensive, easy ways to bring expatriates into the loop. In addition to formal email communication, organizations should encourage the US people, those who have worked in foreign countries, and when they have returned to home country, what are their expenses? They will tell you a lot of these things. And of course, we try to put in the form of a text their experiences which are collected there, put in the form of a text. Then home visits. Most companies provide expatriate with trips home. Although such trips are intended primarily for personal visits, scheduling time for the expatriate to visit home office is an effective method of increasing expatriates' visibility. Then, preparation to return home. The expatriate should receive plenty of advance notice. Some experts recommend up to 1 year of when the international assignment will end. This notice will allow the employee time to prepare the family and to prepare a few new positions in the home office. Then interviews. In addition to home leave, organization may need to provide trips for the employee to interview with the prospective managers. The face-to-face interview will allow the expatriates to elaborate on skills and responsibilities obtained while overseas and will help the prospective managers determine if the employee is a good fit. Then we have to recognize their contribution. Ongoing recognition of contribution. An employer can recognize and appreciate the repatriate's efforts in several ways, which includes hosting a reception for repatriates to help them reconnect and meet new personnel, soliciting repatriates' help in preparing other employees for expatriation, then asking repatriates to deliver a presentation or prepare a report on their overseas assignment, including repatriates and a global task force, asking them for a global perspective on business issues. Now, the important topic we need to focus it is on employee retention. Employees on foreign assignments face a number of issues that domestic employees do not. According to a survey, the majority of expatriate employees who leave their organizations in the midst of international assignments do so because of the issues related to the assignment's adaptation, whether it was related to the job itself, career concerns, overall, or as a result of poor candidate selection. Obviously, retention of international assignees poses a significant challenge to employees. Employees' retention refers to the various policies and practices which let the employees stick to an organization for a longer period of time. Every organization invests time and money to groom a new joiner, make him a corporate ready material, and bring him at par with the existing employees. The organization is completely at loss when the employees leave their job once they are fully trained. Employees' retention takes into account the various measures taken so that an individual stays in an organization for a maximum period of time. Research says most of the employees leave an organization out of frustration and constant friction with their superiors or other team members. In some cases, low salary, lack of growth prospects, and motivation compel an employee to look for a change. The management must try its level best to retain those employees who are really important for the system and are known to be effective contributors. It is the responsibility of the line managers as well as the management to ensure that the employees are satisfied with their roles and responsibilities and the job is offering them a new challenge and learning every day. Now we shall discuss the significance of employee retention. Employee retention strategies go a long way in motivating the employees so that they stick to the organization for maximum time and contribute effectively. Employees sticking to an organization for a longer time tend to know the organization better and develop a feeling of attachment towards it. The employees who stay for a long duration are familiar with the company's policies, guidelines, as well as rules, and thus can contribute more effectively than individuals who come and go. That is the reason why we need to have retention. Individuals, once being trained, have a tendency to move to other organizations across the globe for better prospects, lucrative salary, comfortable timings, better ambience, growth prospects. They are some of the factors which prompt an employee to look for a change. Now, reasons for retention. Hiring is not easy, therefore, you need to retain. An organization invests time and money in grooming an individual and makes him ready to work and understand the corporate culture. It takes a lot of time, therefore, you need to make an effort to retain people. When an individual resigns from his present organization, it is more likely that he would join the competitors. You have to manage your knowledge, therefore, you need to retain. The employees working for a longer period of time are more familiar with the company's policies and guidelines, and these people they adjust better than newcomers. Then every individual needs time to adjust. Even a newcomer, if he comes, he needs time to adjust. It has been observed that individuals sticking to an organization for a longer span are more loyal towards management and organization. It is essential for the organization to retain the valuable employees showing potential. Now, what are the strategies that we can follow? Number one, delegation, giving them responsibilities, avoiding conflict, managing conflict, then promoting activities which bring the employees closer, organizing outdoor picnics, informal get together for the employees to know each other better and strengthen bond for them. Then friendship among employees. It becomes one of the strongest factors which helps them to retain employees. Cordial environment at the workplace. It's very important. The human resource department must ensure that it is hiring the right candidates. Then employee recognition plans are required. We need to have good performance appraisals. They are very important for an employee to stay motivated and avoid looking for a change. Then the salary of the employees must be discussed at the time of the interview. The company's rules and regulations should be made to benefit the employees. The other things are we have studied a lot about motivation. Apply all things that we studied at motivation, like motivators, extrinsic factor, Maslow's theory, equity theory. All these theories we need to apply so that people they are motivated. HR should play an active role in the retention or making people to retain. A leader plays a vital role in retaining people in the organization. We have to design HR policies so that people they stay with us for fairly longer period of time. Okay, that's all for today because there's a lot of material that I can share with you. But I thought